Good morning, fourth graders. Today is Tuesday, April 14th, and I just want to say I hope everybody's enjoying the snow that we got yesterday. Not. I hope we're out building snowmen. I see somebody on Hangouts had put snowmen as their Hangout site name. Not. It'll go away, I promise. Just give it another day. Anyway, so yesterday I pushed out the IXL stuff for you guys to be looking at for reading and writing, and I know math and social studies and science stuff was all pushed out also. I think Mr. Buckley put something in the specialist folder too, but anyway, keep your eyes peeled, take a look at that. Don't forget all the fun apps that you have also. This week I'd really like to see you hitting some reading and take an AR test for me on something this week, okay? Even if it's a one-pointer, whatever, take a test on something for AR this week, okay? All right, in the city of Ember, if you guys remember the city of Ember, haha. If you go back, we talked about a box way back at the beginning of the story, some mysterious box that had something in it that the governors were supposed to protect. And the last we left off was on chapter 6. Lena had come home and Granny was digging around in the closet, and Poppy had a beat up box that she had found, and in it she had found papers. She was tearing them into shreds and she'd eaten some of it, and so I'm wondering what in the world is that all about. Chapter 7, a message full of holes. It was the printing that sparked Lena's curiosity. It was not handwriting, or if it was the neatest, most regular handwriting she had ever seen. It was more like the letters printed on cans of food or along the sides of pencils. Something other than a handwritten note, those words were. A machine of some kind, perhaps? This was the writing of the builders, and so this piece of paper must have come from the builders too, Lena thought. Lena gathered up the scraps of paper from the floor and gently pried open Poppy's fist and mouth to extract the crumpled wads. She put all this into the dented box and carried it into her room. That evening, Granny and the baby were both asleep by a little after 8. Lena had nearly an hour to examine her discovery. She took the scraps from the box and spread them out on the table in her bedroom. The paper was thick. At each torn edge was a fringe of tangled fibers. There were many pieces, and one big piece with so many holes it was like lace. The chewed bits were beyond saving. They were almost a paste, but Lena spread out the big lacy piece and saw that on the edge of it, which was still intact, a column of numbers. She collected all the dry scraps and puzzled out them for a long time, trying to figure out where they fit into this larger piece. When she had arranged them as well as she could, this is what she had. Instru egress. This offic doc instrict secure period of papera made for inha city. X 1 riv ip orc 2 arced marked with e by rj added down iverb ink paper 8 low. Number 4 axe to the wet fine door key hind small right rem open d. Number 5 oat, stocked with back, aunt, eat. Number 6, Uzi, ops, low, ter, head doused, uspa, ks, and assist over, r. Number 7, approximately 3 hours, follow, pat. Lena could make sense of only a few words here and there, but even so, something about this tattered document was exciting. It was not like anything Lena had ever seen. She stared at the very first word at the top of the page, instru, and she suddenly knew what it must be. She'd seen it often enough at school. It had to be the beginning of the word instructions. Her heart began knocking at her chest like a fist at a door. She had found something. She had found something strange and important, instructions for something, but for what? And how terrible that Poppy had found it first and practically ruined it. It occurred to Lena that this might be what her grandmother had been talking about for so long. Perhaps this was the thing that had been lost. Granny wouldn't have recognized the box when she saw it. She would have tossed it out the closet just as carelessly as she tossed out everything else. Anyhow, it didn't matter whether this was the thing or not the thing. It was a mystery in itself, whatever it was, and Lena was determined to solve it. The first step was to stick the pieces of paper down. They were so light that a breath could scatter them. She had a little bit of glue left in an old bottle. Painstakingly, she put a dot of glue on each of the scraps and pressed each one into its place on another precious few remaining whole sheets of paper she had. She put another piece of paper on top of this and set the box on top to flatten everything down. Just as she finished, the lights went out again. She'd forgotten to keep an eye on the clock on her windowsill. She had to undress in the dark and get into bed. She was too excited to sleep much that night. Her mind whirled around, trying to think what the message she found might be. She felt sure it had something to do with saving the city. What if these instructions were for fixing the electricity or making a mobile light? That would change everything. When the lights went out in the morning, she had a few minutes before Poppy wakened to work on the puzzle. There were so many words missing, so many blanks. How could she ever make sense of such a jumble? As she pulled on her red jacket and tied the frayed and knotted laces of her shoes, she thought about it. If the paper was important, shouldn't she keep it to herself? But who could she tell? Maybe the messenger captain. She would know about things like official documents, wouldn't she? Captain Fleury, Lena said when she got to work, would you have time to come home with me later on today? It'd be just for a minute. I found something I'd really like to show you. Found what? Asked Captain Fury. Some paper with writing on it. I think it might be really important. Captain Fleury raised her skinny eyebrows. What do you mean, important? Well, I'm not sure. Maybe it isn't, but would you look at it anyway? So that evening, Captain Fleury came home with Lena and peered at the bits of paper. She bent down and inspected the writing. Full, she said. Ax, rem, ant. What kinds of words are these? I don't know, said Lena. The words are all broken up because Poppy chewed on them. I see, said Captain Fleury. She poked at the paper. These look like instructions for something. She said, a recipe, I suppose? Small steel pan. That would be what you used to cook with, wouldn't it? But who would have such small, perfect writing, Lena asked. Oh, that's the way it was in the old days, said Captain Fleury. It could be a very old recipe. But then why would it have been kept in this beautiful box? She showed the box to Captain Fleury. I think it was locked up in here for some reason, but you wouldn't lock up something unless it was important, right? But Captain Fleury didn't seem to have heard her. Or, she said, it could be a school exercise, someone's homework that never got turned in. But have you ever seen paper like this? Doesn't it look as if it came from someplace else? Someplace perhaps not here? Captain Fleury straightened up. A look of puzzlement came over her face. There is nowhere but here, my dear, she said. She put both her hands on Lena's shoulders. You, my dear, are letting your imagination run away with you. Are you overtired, Lena? Are you anxious? I could put you on short days for a while. No, said Lena. I'm fine, I am, but I don't know what to do about this. She gestured toward the paper. Never mind, said Captain Fleury. Don't think about it. Throw it away. You're worrying too much. I know we all are. There's so much to worry about, but we mustn't let it unsettle us. She gave Lena a long look. Her eyes were the color of dishwater. Help is coming, my dear, she said. Help? Yes. Coming to save us. What? Said Lena. Who is? Captain Fleury bent down and lowered her voice as if telling a secret. Who built our city, my dear? The builders, said Lena. That's right. And the builders will come again to show us the way. They will? Lena asked. Very, very soon, said Captain Fleury. But how do you know? Lena said. Captain Fleury straightened up again and clapped a hand over her heart. I know it in here, my dear, she said, and I have seen it in a dream. So have all of us, all of the believers. It's right in here. So that's what they believe, Lena thought, and Captain Fleury was one of them? She wondered how the captain could feel so sure about it just because she'd seen it in a dream. Maybe it was the same for her as the sparkling city was for Lena. She so wanted it to be true. The captain's face lit up. I know what you must do, dear. Come to one of our meetings. It would lift your heart, we sing. Oh, said Lena, thank you, but I'm not sure maybe sometime. She tried to be polite, but she knew she wouldn't go. She didn't want to stand around waiting for the builders. She had other things to do, more important things to do. Captain Fleury patted her arm. No pressure, dear, she said. If you change your mind, just let me know. But take my advice. Forget about this little puzzle project. Lay down and take a nap. Clears the mind. Her narrow face beamed kindness down at Lena. You take tomorrow off, my dear, she said. She raised a hand goodbye and went down the steps. Lena took advantage of her day off to go to the supply depot to see Lizzie Biscoe. Lizzie was quick and smart. She might have some really good ideas. At the supply depot, crowds of shopkeepers stood in long, disorderly lines that stretched out the door. They pushed and jostled and snapped impatiently at each other. Lena joined them, but they seemed so frantic that they frightened her a little. They must be very sure now that the supplies are running out, she thought, and they're determined to get what they can before it's too late. When she got close to the head of the line, she heard the same conversation several times. "Sorry," the clerk would say when a shopkeeper asked for 10 packets of sewing needles or a dozen drinking glasses or 20 packages of light bulb. "There's a severe shortage on that item. We only have one." Or the clerk would say, "Sorry, we're out entirely." "Forever?" Forever." Lena knew that it hadn't always been this way. When Ember was a young city, the storerooms were full. They held everything the citizens could want, so much it seemed the supplies would never run out. Lena's grandmother had told her that school children were given a tour of the storerooms as part of their education. They took an elevator from the street level to a long curving tunnel with doors on both sides and other tunnels branching off. The guide led the tour down the long passages, opening one door after another. "This area," he would say, "is canned goods. Now come to the school supplies. Then around this bend we have kitchenware. Next comes carpentry tools." At each door, the children crowded against each other to see. "Every room had something different," Granny told Lena. "Boxes of toothpaste in one room and bottles of cooking other. Oil, bars of soap, boxes of pills. There were 20 rooms just for vitamins. One room was stacked with hundreds of cans of fruit. There was something called pineapple." "I remember that one especially," she said. "Pineapple?" asked Lena. "What's that?" "Oh," said Granny, "it was yellow and sweet and so good. It had 4 times. I had it 4 times," Granny said, "before we ran out." But those tours had been discontinued long before Lena was born. The storerooms, people said, were no longer a pleasure to look at. Their dusty shelves stood empty now. It was rumored that in some rooms nothing was left. A child seen the rooms where powdered milk had been stored, or the rooms that stored bandages or socks or pins or notebooks, or most of all, the dozens of rooms that had once held thousands of light bulbs, would not feel, as earlier generations of children had, that Ember was endlessly rich. Today's children, if they were to tour the storerooms, would feel frightened, very much afraid. That's where we'll stop. See you guys tomorrow.